Welcome to tutorial 2. In this tutorial now we are going to look at how to work on the table that we created in tutorial 1, and we are going to specify number of characters for each and every field. I'm going to open tutorial 2 file, which is the same database that we created in tutorial 1. The name is students database that we saved in my documents. As you can see, the database is now open. On the left hand side there you can see there is table 1, which is our table that is already created but is currently closed. What is open now, it is the database students. As you can see there on top, it's written students. It is what we have saved already when we were doing tutorial 1. Now in this tutorial 2 we are going to open the file which is our table on the left, table 1. Yes, we are going to open table 1 and we are going to go to design and look at all the things that we have done when we were doing tutorial 1, so that we can change few things that I'm going to focus on today. Tutorial 1, you can see that we have created a table. We have specified all the columns in tutorial 1, and you can see that even our columns there, they are named, and we also have a different format in one of the columns, which is student number. You can see that it only takes numbers because already by default it specifies here that this is 0 to start with, then it needs a number there. We have student fees, which is going to be only currency. You can see that the format is already in currency, which is in our symbol of South African rands. Then now remember, in tutorial 1 I told you about the two things that you have to work with in Microsoft Access. It's either you are in datasheet or design. So the tool there, view, it is still there, the one that we talked about in tutorial 1. On the tool view, when we are going to change this view to take it to design, we'll have to use this tool. So I'm going to change now to design because this one is datasheet, so that we can see how we started and we can now start to specify number of characters in our fields. I'm now on the design view. If you can check here, this is field name. All the columns that you saw just a few seconds ago when we were looking at our datasheet view, when we saw our normal table that we all understand, all those column headings, they are listed coming from here. As I told you in tutorial 1 that when you specify columns, you list them under field name, then they have to be listed going down. Then we also learned in tutorial 1 how to change the data types. As you key in a field or a column is one thing, you have to change the data type according to the column that you are putting there. If it's a number, it will be a number. If it's going to contain text, it will be text. If it's going to be money, it will be currency. If it's going to be other things that we don't have like date, it will be date, and so on. Now we are on the field student name. I want us to change student name properties so that it can only allow a maximum of 12 characters. So when you find that you have to change the field size to allow a certain number of characters, then you go down there where it's written field size, but make sure that when you go there to field size, as indicated down there, field size, you have highlighted or put the cursor next to the correct column. So your field size will be changed on the column that the cursor is currently in. It will be changed on the character that is currently at. I'm now going to change the student name field to only contain 12 characters. Then now I'm at student surname. I'm also going to change it, but this one I want it to have 15 characters. Now I'm going to look at student fees. Remember, student fees is not going to have characters, but this one will contain money, currency. So what will happen now is that you will have to change a field that is going to contain currency. In the properties, what you will be asked to do is to limit or put the amount that must not be exceeded. Normally they will tell you that it will not exceed 10,000 or it will not exceed 20,000. That is money. It means that when we capture money or currencies under that column, we need to make sure that each and every field or each and every record, yes, record that we put under that field student fees, it must not exceed that amount that is specified, which is specified. So now I'm going to use an example and say, let the fees not exceed 20,000. So now when we go there to student fees, you will have to look at the properties down there. You will see where it says validation rule. There are two, it's validation text and validation rule. So ours that we are doing now is the rule, validation rules. Don't make a mistake because they almost look the same, validation text and validation rule. But now we are going to only use validation rule to limit the amount, to put the maximum amount that you are required not to exceed. So let's say we are not going to exceed 20,000. Each and every record that we capture, no record must be more than 20,000. That is what I'm trying to do now. So I'm going to go down there to validation rule and show you how you write a rule that will strictly make sure that no record will exceed 20,000. As you can see, my cursor is there, blinking there next to validation rule. So we said that it must not exceed 20,000. So we are going to use a mathematical operation or operator that will tell this column that you can only accept lower than or greater than or equals to. So it's either the one of the three. But now the example that I'm saying is that it must not exceed 20,000. So when you think about the three things, greater than, less than, and equals to, we are going to tell it that it must be less than 20,000 because it cannot exceed 20,000. But 20,000 also must be included. So we are going to give it two operators: equals to and less than. Equals to and less than. Say less than and equals to 20. So I've written the validation rule there. I started with a less than sign equals to 20,000. So what I'm trying to say is that all the numbers that, or all the amounts that will be under validation rule must be less than and also equals to that 20,000. Anything from 0 to 20,000 is allowed. But more than that, then the system will give me a message that says you cannot exceed more than 20,000. So let me save what I've done now and see how my records, when they are captured, will look like. I've saved. Now I'm going to change the view to datasheet. I'm now on datasheet view. I'm going to capture the records. Let me start with one person and show you how to capture the records. When you capture the record, you capture the record of that person in full. If you see that you are given names of people, of students, say names of students, their student numbers and fees, you don't start with one column and fill in all the names. You have to look at one name and give that name, that say name, and you capture going to the right, so that if there's an error for that record, you can pick it up immediately. Because the Microsoft Access cannot allow null values, like columns which are empty at that moment, records which are having columns that are empty. So we'll start capturing. Let me capture John and with his records. Now, as you can see, I've captured John Smith with the student number 254 and the amount, the student fees is 2,500. So I'm going to capture again the second person, which is going to be Sarah. Sarah with the information that belongs to her. Now there is something that I wanted you to notice here. There's a message that says the changes you requested to the table were not successful because they will create duplicate values in the index primary key. Now remember the primary key that we did in tutorial 1, we have put it in student number. So when you look at student number now, you can see that John and Sarah, they have the same student number, which is now a problem. That is why Microsoft Access can be able to give you a message now that says the changes you requested to the table were not successful because they will create duplicate. We are not allowed to have duplicates on a column or a field that has been specified as a primary key field. So it means now you can't go on up until you solve the problem that you see now as an error. What I'm going to do now is to remove or click OK on this error and show you what we have to do now so that we can continue to the third record that we need to capture. Now you can see there was nothing wrong. I was able to continue to the next record because now I've removed that a new student number for Sarah, which is different from John. Now let's look at the validation rule that we've put that said student fees cannot exceed 20,000, and let's attempt to put any number that is more than 20,000. Now let's look at this message. This one says one or more values are prohibited by the validation rule to be less and equals to 20,000 set for table 1 student fees. Enter a value that the expression for this field can accept. So when you see this, you have to remember that it's because of the rule that I had to specify according to the instructions given to me when I was doing the validation rule. So then you realize that the information that you are giving now in the records contradicts with the settings that you have done in the design view when you were doing the validation rules and uh, field sizes. So I'm going to click OK and also fix my student fees for Steve. So now you understand that the problem here that we've encountered was when we captured the student number twice, and also when we ignored the validation rule and attempted to capture the fees that were more than the validation rule. So now I'm going to show you how to print the records, how they should look like, and also the structure, how it should look like. So now when you print the records, you have to make sure that the printout of the records, which is the table with the information inside, has to appear in a landscape page. So before you click and rush to click the button print, you have to start with print preview and look at how your page is appearing. I'm now on the print preview page, and you can see that my page is currently on a portrait orientation. Then when you are in the print preview like we are now, that is when you can find an option of changing it to landscape. I'm going to do it now. Now my page is appearing now in landscape. Then that is when you can go and click the button print there on the left. Now I'm going to close the print preview so that I can show you how to now print the structure. So when I close the print preview, it takes me back to the original table. So now I'm going to explain to you just for a few seconds what is a structure. A structure is when you want to see the information that was used or the information that Microsoft Access stored, which is the information that created the table in your database. The information will tell us how many fields we have, how many indexes there, the properties of the table, how many primary keys do we have, all the information that we were doing. It will be printed as like a report, but now that is not a report. It is just the properties which are showing the structure of how your database looks like in a printable format, which is just an information, so that you can read it and see what has been done to create this database. So when you want that information, the first thing that you do when you see the table that is open now, because obviously we would have printed this, you have to close the table but not the database. Remember, here on the left we have table 1. You can see it. Then on the right hand side here within your table area, you have a close button for the table. Not that one there up there, but this one here on the right hand side in line with your table 1. We are going to click that so that our current open table can be closed. Now you can see what I'm trying to explain. The current table is now closed. Then we are going to follow the steps on how do we print our structure. You cannot print a structure while your table is open. That is why I had to show you that you had to close the table first, and now you'll be able to print the structure. So when you print the structure, if you want to write them down, the steps is you have to go to database tools. Up there on the tabs database tools, you click it. After that we will look at the next step, and the next step after that, up until we have our printout displaying on the screen. I've clicked database tools as my first tab to open. The second one is database documenter. I'm going to click it. When you click database documenter like I did now, you see there's a screen that gives you a documenter where you have to decide which column, which table do you want to print from. So Microsoft Access can create many tables. You can create many tables in Microsoft Access. Currently we have one, which is table 1. So I'm going to click or tick in that box to tell Microsoft Access that I need information from this table. So then when that screen of documenter comes, you tick inside the table that you want the structure from. When the table is ticked like that, then now the next step is to look at the buttons here on the right, and then you will have to choose options, because you'll be told to print with properties or without properties. So we are going to remove the properties there and just print the structure without properties. You click options. When I click options here, you can see that there are two radio buttons here at the bottom of the screen. You have include for fields and include for indexes. So now we want to remove the properties. As you can see, there is the options are almost the same, but at the end the difference is properties like name, data types, and sizes. Then you have name, data type, sizes, and properties. Even for indexes you have name and fields, and then you have name, fields, and properties. So now we need to remove the one that is having properties. So obviously that is why we are not ticking the third one. We will just tick this one, which is name, data types, and properties for fields, and also for indexes we will leave it as name and fields because we don't want properties. Then we are fine. If they said with properties, then you will change to name, data types, sizes and properties for fields, and also you will have to tick that third one for the indexes because it's having properties. So since we don't want properties, we leave them as they are. We don't change them for now. Then I click OK. Also click OK. And now what comes here is a page that you'll be able to print out, which contains the information that Microsoft Access generated, that you will need to look at to see how your database was created. I will zoom it. I just clicked on it now. Then you can see the information that the database was created in which folder up there. What is the name of the database? How many columns you have for the database? And how many primary keys and where is the primary key. So all these things that you see now, this is what we call the structure. The structure is the information that is going to be generated on a page like this to give you all the details that you need to know in terms of how your table was created. So you cannot print the design screen and say it's your structure. The structure, you have to get it from the steps that I've shown you. I will just repeat it again for the last time. I will repeat the steps on how to print the structure for the last time. Database tools, you click it up there. Database documenter, tick the table, click options. You click options to check whether the properties are selected or not selected, if you are instructed to print or don't print without them. After you verified and you made changes, then you can click OK. Then you click OK again. When your structure is appearing, that is when you can go to the button print and print it out. Thank you very much for watching tutorial 2. We will meet again when you are going to look at tutorial 3, when we check on how to create a report using Microsoft Access 2013, whereby we will start by creating queries and it will finally take us to a report that will be in tutorial 3. Thank you very much. Keep on watching this video. It will help you a lot.